morning, and thanks for joining us on After GMS. I'm Tracy McCain here with Megan Malaris, Ed Matthews, Triad Kirksey, and Stacy Spivey, all reporting for duty.
Yeah, reporting for duty on this winter weather Wednesday. It is cold outside, it is wet, and turning icy in some spots. So guys, are we past the point where this is a major concern, or are we still in the thick of it?
We're still right in the thick of it right now. We still have more and more precipitation moving on in. A lot of this is falling in the form of freezing rain right now, especially along and north of the I-40 corridor. And then as you work your way into the foothills, not only do we have freezing rain in a few spots, have some sleet, and I can't even rule out a little bit of snow up that way as well before it changes over to all freezing rain as we go through the day for you all also. As we take the wide view here, you see all of that rainfall out there. We have freezing rain for now because we have temperatures right around the freezing mark for just about everybody. We've been holding steady in the 31 to 32 degree range across the Triad all morning. We're at 32 right now in Wilkesboro, 34 in Burlington. Futurecast model plays things out like this through at least the morning hours. We'll have some areas of freezing rain. Some of that could continue in a few spots through the early afternoon hours before we switch over to all regular cold rain with temperatures warming up into the 33 to 35 degree range. As far as the accumulation of ice, it's going to mainly just be on trees and other elevated surfaces such as roadways, or such as bridges and overpasses. Rather, those actual surface streets should just remain wet. I think we'll see right down a glaze to maybe 1/10 of an inch for most of us, but we could see a little bit more than that in the purple, where you can see up to 2/10 of an inch, maybe even 1/4 of an inch of ice in a couple of isolated areas in the foothills. And then as you head to the south and east, it's just all rain. As far as traffic is concerned, we did have the report of an accident on I-40 eastbound near Kernersville there. That's where you see the red on the map. No word as to whether or not, as far as I've seen, whether or not it's weather related or anything like that, but that's something we're keeping an eye on. We've been talking about bridges and overpasses all morning long. This is why the bridges tend to freeze first, and in this case, this is why the bridges will be the main issue that we see on the roadways today. The ground itself is above freezing. So surface streets, the warm ground will keep the streets just wet, but not icy. But where you have bridges, the air can kind of work its way all the way around the road surface, cooling it down to or just below the freezing mark. So we could have a few slick spots on some of the bridges. This is what it looks like out there right now. You see all the rain falling. You also see the winds starting to pick up as well. That could play a part in the possibility of a couple of power outages as we go through the day. We can see a few wind gusts in the 20 to maybe even 30 mile per hour range. So for the morning, that's when we have the freezing rain out there. Could even see a little bit of sleet mixed in at times, and it changes over to a regular rain through the afternoon. Any moisture that remains on the ground tonight could freeze into a layer of black ice early tomorrow morning, with lows tonight dipping down into the upper 20s to low 30s. And then we're back into the mid 40s for highs for the rest of the week. That's a quick look at your 7-day forecast.
All right, we're getting a whole bunch of questions, and we'll get to those in just a few minutes. If you have a question, go ahead and type it into the comments. We will have a full discussion. But first, we need to check in with our live crews this morning. They're, of course, staying on top of road conditions, and a lot has changed over the last few hours.
Yeah, Amanda Ferguson has been toughing it out in Greensboro in the cold and wet conditions. Amanda, what kind of changes have you noticed, if any, on the roads?
It doesn't look like there is a ton of changes out here. There are a few more cars, but there's not a lot of traffic. It's just rainy and cold. The rain has been pretty consistent all morning here, right by Guilford College Road and I-40. Remember, if you are driving out and about this morning, please be careful. Take your time, especially if you are driving over some bridges and overpasses like the one right here. Just be extra careful out here. It is cold and it is rainy, and you want to be careful with the rain and the icy conditions.
All right, Amanda, thank you so much. We also have a crew in Forsyth County. You can see Denise McMiller standing by.
Yeah, Denise, we see some incident behind you where there are fire trucks and I believe an ambulance, police lights. Tell us what's going on.
Well, we're on Union Cross Road, about a mile away from where there are two crashes. One where a tractor trailer overturned along I-40. We're going to take a look at some of this traffic right here. This is I-40. One of the crashes, as I said, happened on Old Salem Road. We're overlooking the traffic that's backed up along the eastbound lanes. Now, this traffic is backed up at least a mile or so, and traffic has been backed up like this for about 2 hours. So you want to avoid I-40 in this area if you can. Now, Forsyth County EMS says that no one was injured in this crash. Now, it is also unclear if these two crashes are a result of these slick conditions, but we do know, again, that there are 2 crashes happening right now, and Highway Patrol says that it'll likely be until at least 11 before they get this road back open. So again, as I said, you want to avoid this area. If anything, you want to avoid even coming outside because it is wet out here. These roads are slick, and we, again, as I said, aren't 100% sure if these crashes are a result of these conditions, but if you can, please avoid coming outside, and if you do, try to make sure that you're being cautious and slowing down. We'll continue to bring you updates on this scene and the situation as we get more details.
Again, Itanese on I-40 in Forsyth County, Kernersville to be exact, and you can see the state trooper now making their way to the scene to make sure that they are now present and able to clear the problem from the road. So we'll monitor conditions, but we need to check back in with Stacy Spivey. You're keeping track of what people are seeing in their neighborhoods, and of course, a lot of people are posting online their questions for our team.
Yeah, we've been seeing a lot of questions, but first I want to show you some photos and pictures and just little tidbits from social media that we've seen so far this morning. Really just exactly what our weather team has been saying. Seeing ice on elevated surfaces, on just surfaces like cars and windshields and everything like that. Nothing too bad on the roadways at this time. Walter actually sharing a photo of his windshield completely covered in ice, and that's in Kernersville. He says it's 31 degrees there and freezing rain. And our photographer Ryan Gavette has been covering conditions in Greensboro all morning. He tweeted this photo of ice starting to accumulate on the WFMY live truck. And our loyal viewer Bobby writing on Facebook, there was a glaze of ice on his van this morning in Caswell County. Also on Facebook, Mike reporting freezing rain, some ice and grass and trees in Westfield. And then Chris in Ruffin sharing this photo of the ice on top of his car. He says he's seeing ice on elevated surfaces there. So not really seeing anything that would create a major problem. Obviously, if you're going to be going out this morning anywhere, you're probably going to go outside, warm your car up for a little bit before you drive anywhere because there's probably going to be ice on your windshield.
Yeah, I had to start mine a little bit earlier this morning too, and just kind of sit there for a few minutes because that's a big thing as well. You know, it's the first time this season where we've really had to deal with frozen precip on windshields, and take our cars a little bit to get used to that as well.
Yeah, my mind is still wrapped around the warm weather we had over the weekend. So I still haven't transitioned to what we're experiencing this morning, but I do want to bring our weather team in this discussion. You guys are getting so many questions. Of course, it's a big weather day. So Triad, we'll start with you about the timing. Now that it's here, everybody wants to know when it will clear out.
We should start to see some gradual improvement from the south to the north as we go through midday, but there could be a few spots that are still dealing with maybe a rain sleet mix into the early afternoon hours before it changes over to just a regular chilly rain as we go through the mid to late afternoon.
And Ed, Michael Griffin wants to know, is it possible it would start snowing? Are the conditions right for that?
Unfortunately not. I would certainly rather for this to be a fluffy snow than freezing rain. And we touched on this a little bit yesterday on the Good Morning Show, how in a normal atmosphere, the temperatures get colder as you go higher in the atmosphere. That's the reason it's usually colder in Boone than it is in the Triad. This time, things are kind of turned upside down in what we call an inversion. It's actually a little warmer in the cloud layer. So what may start out as a snowflake melts before it reaches the ground. The coldest temperatures are really right at the surface with these temperatures that we're experiencing around 31 or 32. So this is an ideal situation, whatever form the precipitation is as it comes out of the cloud. It may melt, it may partially melt. That's the reason we've been telling you that some areas are getting a little bit of sleet, and there have been some snowflakes north and west of the immediate Triad as well. But for the most part, any snowflakes or sleet pellets are melting before they reach the ground, but when they get contact on this cold ground, that's when they refreeze into ice, freezing rain.
All right, so I think one of you might have hinted towards the threat for tomorrow morning. So Taran, I'll ask you that question. With the rain and what we're seeing tonight, what's the potential that that could be an issue tomorrow?
Well, there's a lot of moisture out there, and I don't think it's all going to melt, or not melt, evaporate before before we go through the night tonight. So any standing water on the ground, let's say tonight after midnight, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, will start to refreeze. And so I do think we could have some spots of black ice early in the morning. That's going to be kind of another issue to worry about. And that would have been the case even if we didn't have freezing rain this morning. Just the regular rain could refreeze into sheets of black ice. We've seen that happen before this time of the year. So when you start getting temperatures that fall below freezing on kind of a regular basis, sometimes you do have these situations where you had rain during the day and then it refreezes into black ice at night.
Yeah, and Isaac observed what you had said. It's going to be mostly rain this afternoon, right? Like for the evening commute home from work, people should be okay just to use regular caution.
Exactly. We're looking at just regular rain for the evening commute.
All right, so what about power outages, Ed Matthews? We haven't seen any widespread power outages, thankfully, yet, but with that 1/10 to 2/10 of ice on the power lines, it could be an issue even later today.
Well, what we're really going to be watching, and as Taran talked about when we got started, we're really in the thick of it now with the precipitation rates a little bit higher. What's coming down is freezing. I mean, this started out as just a few spits of freezing rain and freezing drizzle earlier this morning. The last time I was in the weather garden, it was coming down, and with temperatures around 31, 32, we are getting more and more reports of accumulating ice, especially watching those bridges and overpasses, but we've got to watch the tree branches as well. Those elevated surfaces, that would be tree branches, we couldn't rule out maybe a few trees coming down. I don't see a lot of power outages, but certainly we couldn't rule those out. Now this system is really kind of coming together along the South Carolina coast, and as it intensifies and eventually becomes that major winter storm for New England, we expect the winds to gust up. We could easily have 20, 25 mile per hour wind gusts through the day and maybe even as high as 30. So there is a concern that there could be some power outages due to fallen tree branches, but I don't see a lot of them. Just be prepared just in case. Have everything charged up.
Yeah, Isaac said his power is on now. I think a lot of viewers are feeling the same way, thankful that they do still have power and heat, of course, as it's very cold this morning. Joe, and I know you've mentioned this, but we have some viewers tuning in or hopping on as this live feed continues. So, Ed, Joe wants to know, when is this rain supposed to end?
I don't see the rain. Here's what we're looking at. Taran and I are looking at the timeline. This freezing rain line is very gradually going to shift to the north. I mean, it's going to be slow. So we've got, several more hours at least of freezing rain. And our northern counties along the Virginia border and of course into southern Virginia will be the last areas to clear out from the frozen precipitation. But we think as we go through the afternoon and that line continues to advance to the north, it's just going to be mainly a cold rain, but that cold rain could be with us right on into the evening hours, and that's the reason we're a little bit more concerned about the black ice situation tomorrow morning, because I really don't think the highways, they'll partially dry, but I think there's going to be some water and some ice, left behind tomorrow morning, because I don't see the rain completely moving out until the evening hours.
Yeah, and Turan, I know you are big into science and chemistry, and you know a little bit about like the road composition as it relates to treating the roads, ice and brine. We know the city of Greensboro, I believe it was, did not brine the roads ahead of time, at least not the large majority of roads, because of all the rain. It was going to wash the brine away, preventing it from being able to react with the surfaces and stay dry. So can you allude to the reasoning behind why sometimes we do see brine versus salt, and what happens when it interacts with the ground?
Well, one of the big issues that you have with freezing rain is, to your point, if you try to treat the roads, sometimes the rain just washes it away when you have freezing rain. In comparison, when you have a good snowfall and you treat the roads, the snow is not going to wash the brine or the pre-treatment away. The main point in adding salt to the road or things like that is you're lowering the freezing point of the liquid, or lowering the freezing point of the water when you mix salt into it. So that can help in many cases when you have temperatures in the mid to upper 20s, low 30s. The salt keeps things from freezing up. So this is the type of situation though where pre-treating the road helps, but it can only do so much because we have so much rain that's falling, and that's why they're consistently going back over it as much as they can to try to do whatever they can to slow down the icing of some of the bridges, and maybe they can prevent it in some cases, but the overarching idea is just because a road has been treated, you still need to treat it as though there's still ice on the bridge. Just treat it that way. And so, as Ed has been saying the past few days, it doesn't take a lot of ice on bridges to cause a big problem. I mean, you can have freezing drizzle and just a little bit of ice on a bridge, you can get an accident from that. So just avoid going out if you can, but if you have to be out, just exercise caution. Mainly on the bridges. I think the surface roads are going to probably be just fine through the day today. Tonight, that's when we can start to see issues with some of the ice on the surface streets, depending on how cold we get.
And if you head anywhere, don't go to the Northeast, where they're about to get 2 feet to 30 inches of snow. So
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Move along here.
Yeah, feeling really like winter up there. All right, we'll give you all a chance, if you're watching the feed, to type in a few last questions. But right now, let's get a look at our headlines this morning. A lot to cover on the COVID vaccine front. 10 Wake Forest Baptist healthcare workers got vaccinated Tuesday. The first doses of the COVID vaccine arrived at the hospital Monday morning, and the medical center was one of 11 hospitals in the state to receive the first shipment. Wake Forest will continue vaccinating employees and could offer 600 shots a day next week. Cone Health and Novant Health are gearing up to get their shipments as well from Pfizer this week, possibly tomorrow. If they do, Cone Health is planning to start vaccinating employees on Friday. Several Greensboro business owners say they will close their doors for the foreseeable future due to COVID guidelines. The Bearded Goat downtown is closing both locations until further notice. A social media post said it might open up on weekends if the weather warms up. Cow at Revolution Mill is also closing for the season. That'll happen next Wednesday, but the butcher shop and market will stay open with limited takeout menu. Starting tonight, Tanglewood Festival of Lights will close early to stay in line with the new statewide curfew. The light show typically closes at 11, but will now shut down at 10 each night to stay in line with the new executive order. The new closing time will last the rest of the season.
All righty, let's recap weather. We'll start out by taking a look at these temperatures. We're going to focus on these all morning long. They're right around freezing. Winston-Salem and Greensboro at 31 over at Walnut Cove. This is ideal conditions for freezing rain to accumulate on colder objects and those bridges and overpasses. We'll be watching for these temperatures to move up. It's going to be a very, very slow process, but we can hope And as we look at our radar and you see all this pink here, this is where we're seeing the freezing rain. And I talked about earlier on the Good Morning Show, kind of a good dividing line would be Highway 64, because everybody knows where that is. It runs from Pittsburgh to Siler City to Asheboro and over to Lexington. That's kind of the dividing line, with wintry precipitation to the north and just plain old rain in places like Troy and down through Moore County, Lee County, and even Chatham County as well. Now, what we're going to be watching through the morning is this rain and freezing rain line to move northward. Again, it is going to be slower than what we would like. We don't expect the frozen precipitation to actually exit our northern counties along the Virginia border, and this is normally what we would expect in this type of situation. We don't expect those areas to clear out of the freezing rain until probably early afternoon. So we'll be watching this very closely, but certainly the precipitation coming down right now and temperatures are right around the freezing mark. As we check the forecast, plain old rain as we head through the afternoon. We don't warm very much. We'll wiggle our way a few degrees above the freezing mark, about 35, 36 today with the afternoon rain. The rain will taper off this evening, partly cloudy. Look at that overnight low, 30. So we go below freezing in most locations tonight. And again, as we've been talking about, that will likely lead to some patches of ice in what we call black ice, because you can see through it. It looks wet, but it's ice. It's a skating rink, and we call it black ice because the roadways are black. And it is tricky, tricky, tricky. So join us on the Good Morning Show tomorrow, and of course we'll be all over that and keep you updated on road conditions. Tomorrow, sun and clouds, a little breezy in mid-40s, and then Friday and hopefully most of the weekend dry, mid-40s on Friday, upper 40s on Saturday. We're going with a small rain chance on Sunday and a high near 50. And oh, so let's celebrate, everybody. The first day of winter is on Monday. Yay.
We'll be celebrating those warmer temperatures, though.
Yes. Yeah, we'll definitely be. You know that I was being a little sarcastic there, right?
We sensed
Just a
it.
little.
Well, here's a serious question that Jen Anthony had for you, Ed. She said, my mom is supposed to be flying out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania tomorrow. Do you think she will have any problems?
Oh, Lord. That's a tough one. Taran, you want to jump in on that? No, seriously, they're going to have snow up there, and there's going to be a rain-snow line along the immediate coast. How far inland that comes in. But, you know, maybe if they didn't have delays there, they could have delays at other places that would cause delays in Philadelphia. So it may not be so easy for them to get out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're going to be digging for a while, although they're equipped to handle, wouldn't you say that? Guys, you know, the Northeast is a little bit more equipped to handle big snow events than maybe we are in the South. I mean, Taran, you grew up in Alabama. I'm sure you don't even have one snow truck there.
There were some places I lived in Alabama that definitely didn't have one. They would just bring out the bulldozer and just do what they could. But as you venture your way north, things get easier and easier as far as states having the resources to deal with snow, because you get it more often. So yeah, you know, they have the resources up there to handle it, but you know, usually you'll get maybe a 5 to 6 inch snowfall in the Northeast. That's not a big deal, but when you start talking about feet of snow, and in Philadelphia, probably somewhere, just kind of a rough guess, between, you know, 6 and 14 inches, maybe something like that. So that's a lot to deal with. So we'll see how things go, but that's certainly going to end up being the big national weather story over the next few days for sure.
Yeah, we got a couple questions and even comments about salt here on our feed. I saw crews on my way to work this morning in Greensboro, salting some of the bridges, overpasses, and ramps. We know I-10 McMiller, who is live in Winston-Salem for us, saw crews there salting the roads. So they are out and about. Even those cities that did not do the pre-treating seem to be responding now in the form of salt. But one last question here from Joe. She said she works late at night. She's going to be coming home from work about 10:30, 11, and is worried about those roads refreezing. What time tonight do you anticipate the temperatures dropping again and posing that threat for black ice?
Well, I would hope that temperatures would still be a degree or two above freezing even by 11 o'clock, but we think things would become more critical after midnight, 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning as the temperatures continue to drop. But I encourage her to be extra careful regardless.
All right, I'll put my foot back in my shoe here and we'll get ready to close out the show. It's been a long one, but great questions from everyone, and we certainly appreciate you chatting with us. I especially appreciate the compliments about my glowing figure. So thank you, I appreciate it. And we'll be right back here tomorrow as we continue to keep an eye on whatever threat there continues in the morning. We'll be having the morning show starting at 4:30 and then after GMS at 7:45.
All right, we'll see you then on all platforms. Thank you for being with us and stay safe today.
Take care.